Hello everyone, welcome back to the series of Oracle AI Agents Studio Workflow Agents. So this is episode 3 of this series where we will talk about node types. There are different kinds of nodes which are available within our workflow agents like AI nodes, logic nodes, data nodes, control node or the communication nodes. So we are going to understand in summary how those nodes look like and what actually these nodes do. So think of this episode as your building blocks guide, right? Because once you understand what each node does and when to use it, you can build any enterprise workflow you can imagine virtually. And as this is episode 3, and if you have not watched the episode 1 and episode 2, I will drop the link in the description and also link in the top. Go check those out first, as they are going to set the foundation for everything we are covering today. And if you're new here and have not subscribed, hit subscribe button so you don't miss any episode in this series. So let's get started with this episode 3. So now we know what are the purpose of workflow agents or what actually workflow agents are. And naturally the next question comes is what are they actually made of? We know we keep on saying okay, they are deterministic, there are multiple steps process which are there, and we can have a specific outcome because they're deterministic. But how actually that is being made, right? So think of it like I will give one very relatable example while explaining what actually workflow agent is. So think of it like this, right? So let's say when an electrician wires a building, right? They don't start from scratch every time because they have a standard components like switches, circuits, connectors, bulbs, right? And what they do, they just assemble them in a right way to get the outcome they need. And workflow agents work exactly the same way. We have 5 category of node for now, and your job as a builder is to wire them together to create a workflow, right? And let me walk you through each one. To start with, AI node, right? So AI node are nothing but the combination or the grouping of LLM node, agent node, workflow node, RAG, document tool. So whenever you need to interpret what someone said or maybe extract information from a document or maybe classify a request, we need to use AI node. So let me show you an example from here. So these are the AI nodes. If I look at the same workflow agent which we were created earlier, so these are the nodes: LLM, agent, workflow, and RAG document tool. So now let's see, right? So if that's a the first node, that is LLM. So let's say if you wanted to process something like we have a JSON, okay, and we wanted to extract some data from that JSON, we can have LLM build out which can extract data from JSON. Or let's say we are running a REST API, and REST API has a very big output which we get, right? Because there are a lot of fields which are involved, and we only need to fetch a specific set of fields from the REST API output. We have to use a LLM. So here in this prompt, we have to provide that context that you will receive an input as your REST API output, and then out of that output, you need to fetch these specific set of fields. Okay, so that's all about LLM. Next comes the agent. These agent are nothing but the agent, a worker agent. If you don't know what worker agent is like a AI agent which has to do some task, right? So what? Let's take an example. For now, that tool is not available, which is coming for the processing of the documents, right? And we have that multiprocessor file tool, right, which is provided by Oracle. So what we need to do if we need to process a PDF at runtime as part of workflow agent, we need to use a worker agent for this. And the reason is that as I cannot add that tool right now, and I have to use that agent where I can add that tool and then use it over here. So I can add a worker agent as part of this workflow to be able to do some processing which is not directly possible within a workflow agent. So we can have a worker agent build out and get that process from there. Next is a workflow. This workflow is nothing but a another workflow agent. So let's say we have built two workflow agents. Let's say one for doing invoice creation and one for, let's say, I'm not just giving you some random example. So one for, let's say, for invoice creation, one for is for your payment creation, and we wanted to group them into one, or you can just call one by one to each, right? So what we can do, we can add those agent as a workflow agent from here. We can just say I will just show you agent also. So in agent, what we can do, we can write a name and then select that agent from there. Likewise, what we can do, we can go to this workflow and then add the workflow agent from here. Likewise, next is RAG document tool. So for now, you know how to upload files at runtime for this AI agents, right? If you're not aware of this runtime processing tool for the your PDF processing, you can check out my another video which is already there, and I will put a link in the description for that to how to upload files during runtime processing. So I will link that video also. So we know that we can process that documents that during runtime. But let's say we have a lot of policy based document or any other internal documents, right? Which you wanted to get answers from, or any employee can get answers from. So in that those kind of things, we can use a RAG document tool. Oracle provides a tool, document tool, and what we can do, we can have those tools used. These are RAG based tool where we have to upload a document and then process them. So if you are not sure how we can create a document tool, you can check out my another video for document tool. I will also link that in the comments, or not comments, in the description, and also link it at top. So you can check out my video for that. So that's all the AI nodes, whether we need to process something, run another agent or any workflow agent, or process the documentation using RAG. Next comes the logic node. Logic node are your behind the scenes worker. No AI involved, just clean deterministic logic. Set variables to carry straightforward, and code node to transform data, compute threshold, validate format, and just to keep workflow predictable and precise. So where is it? Let me just. So this is the logic one. We have code. So in this code, we can just say return type is whatever array, and then write a, a code here. Okay. Now this code, right? This needs to be in Java. That is the only supported format. We cannot write it in Python. We need to write it in JavaScript, and then we can have this code. We can use multiple columns from the inputs, other outputs as input here, and then process that data. There are a few set of limitations for this code nodes, which I will talk about when I'm going to deep dive into this logic node video in the upcoming episodes. So that's the code node, and then we have set variables. So what we can do, so there is a thing, as I was saying when I was talking about workflow agent, so there is a variable tab which is available. So what we can do, let's say if we have some variable which we want to use at later point of time, right? What we can do, we can assign that value to this variable and then call that variable into any other node. If we have to use this again and again, it's not like that we have to call the same node output and again. If let's say we are getting an output from LLM node for that, let's say any field, let's say invoice number, right, from LLM node. So it's not like we have to use that big node again and again. What we can do, we can assign a variable and then use this variable for later point of time. Or let's say you are not getting that data from any node, but you have something which you wanted to hard code, right? The fixed value. What we can do, you can create a variable and then take this variable value and then use it into the nodes. So that's the purpose of this variable. And then what we can do while using this, we can have, let's say if we wanted to set some variable, so what we can do, we can select that variable, and let's say we can also provide that value as a fixed code value. Let's say uh, invoice number I have to write, right? So invoice 12345 I can write and select that variable, apply, and that's it. So that will automatically assign that variable. And once after this node, let's say if I'm adding a variable node here, so after this node, if anytime I have to use that variable, that same value will come, unless we are again assigning at some point of time later to that variable. That variable will hold that value which we are assigning at one point. So that's the purpose of variable. So that's a logic node. Third, if we come, that is data nodes. So this is how your workflow connects to the real world. Need to read or fetch an invoice from Fusion, business object. We need got a PDF attachment to process, document processor node. Need to call an external system API, say a shipping carrier, right? So we need to use external REST. So these nodes are nothing but your integration layer basically. So now again, I will go back. So these are your data node. Okay, document processor, if let's say time sheet document or any other uh, uh, document on your, let's say, UCM which is available, and then you need to process it, so we will use this document processor. Now next one is the business object. So let's say if you need to fetch or create data within Oracle Cloud, let's say create an invoice or fetch an invoice details, we need to use a business object. So instead of, so what we can do, I can just add that data, come here, add that business function, select that business function. Although we have to create this business object separately using uh, business object tab. If you are not sure how to create a business object or our external REST tool, you can check out my these two video where I covered how to create a business object tool and the external REST tool. I will link them in the description. You can check out them. So we can add these as a node to be able to process something, because we, as part of these workflow agent, we are doing something, right? Either we are creating something, or we are fetching something, or we are running a report just to get out data. So we are doing something, right? To and we can also fetch it from other third-party system. So we can have all this available from the data node. And then we have these vector DB reader, vector DB writer, right? So if we these are nothing but memory related things. If we have to store something and then fetch it again, we can use these DB vector DB reader and the writer. Reader is this how there are multiple set of fields which we have to do, and then vector DB writer we have to again we have to write and delete. There are multiple operations which are there, which I'm going to cover in a separate video when I'm going to cover in the upcoming episode. So that's all about the data related nodes. Now coming on to the fourth one, not yeah, fourth one, that is workflow control nodes. So think of these as the traffic signals of your workflow. If, switch, loop, while, run in parallel, or the human approval, wait, right? So these nodes will decide how the workflow will move. Do we need to go left or right? Do we need to run these steps together or one by one? Do we need to pause or wait for human? All of that is being controlled in this workflow control node. So if I go again, so here are those nodes. Human approval we can have based on email and chat based approval, human in the loop, and then if it is a feedback based, we can loop back to any previous node. So that's a human approval. Next is if, let's say if there is some condition based on that, whether it is true, you want to follow a separate path, and if it is a false, you want to follow a separate path, you can use the if condition node. So let's say if I'm just for now writing something, anything, just to show you, right? So you can see this is a if condition. If it is true, if it is false, right? So that's a if condition. But if we talk about run in parallel, that means both things will run all the time. It will run in parallel. But if it is a if condition, then only one path will be followed. Then we have loop that means processing again and again, again and again, again and again, again and again, until it gets completed. So that's a loop we are using. Let's say I was showing you earlier, loop is nothing but whether we want to sequentially or parallelly we can do, but it will be looping for a specific thing. Then we have switch. Switches in, like if we have, let's say, few conditions, right, and they will be having a separate path, only one path can be followed, right, for a specific, as I was giving an example for invoice hold, right? Price variance hold will follow a separate path for resolution. If it is a duplicate invoice hold, that will follow a separate path. So we can have those switch cases here. Return, and then we have return. Return is not yet used, but it is returned to the previous node or the node if we have to return to specific node. So that's a return. There are more nodes being added as part of these grouping. In the upcoming release, you will see more nodes being added, like attachment processing node, or because there is going to be a tool node which will be added where we can add different kinds of tool, like attachment reader. I'm giving one example, but different kinds of things which are being added as we move towards upcoming releases. And the final one is the communication node. Communication node, this is at the end of the day, if let's say workflow don't run or people need to know what's happening, right? So communication send emails, notify stakeholders, and keep humans informed without them needed to open a workflow themselves. And coming soon, there will be more nodes which will be coming, like for a PDF generation or maybe audio related nodes which will be coming. So that's the toolkit, 5 categories, dozens of node, infinite possibilities. And in next episode, we will deep dive into each one of these with real example from Oracle Fusion, ERP or SCM or HR. So stay with me and we are going to get this through. Thank you for watching.